Good afternoon, and welcome to today's American School and University webcast, Risk Mitigation and Events, Why Knowing is Better Than Guessing, sponsored by deToledo. My name is Stephen Avert, and I'm the Content Products Director for American School and University. Before we begin, let me explain how you can participate in today's presentation. If at any time you're having audio difficulties or slides are not advancing, simply hit your F5 key to refresh your webcast console. If you have any technical difficulties during today's session, please press the Help button on your player console to receive assistance in solving common issues. This webinar technology allows you to resize the presentation by clicking the Maximize icon or by dragging the lower right corner to enlarge the window. We welcome your questions during today's event. In order to submit your questions to today's presenter, simply type your question into the question window on the left-hand side of your screen and then hit the Submit button. We'll be answering as many questions as possible during the Q&A session that will follow the main presentation, but please feel free to send in your questions at any time and we'll add them to the queue. Please also be aware that today's session is being recorded and will be available on the ASNU website for the next week for you to review. You'll be notified email when the archive is available. On your console, the school logo is hot linked, so if you want to visit their website during this webcast, you can click on the logo and a new window will open. This will not take you out of the webinar. I would now like to introduce our presenters. David Marcus is Business Manager at deToledo High School in West Hills, California, a suburb of Los Angeles. And Linda Lane is Facilities Use Coordinator at Edmonds School District in Edmonds, Washington. Welcome, David. The floor is yours.
Good morning. I'm just looking at myself there, and I'd prefer not to. So that's me with the dude from Dude University. Anyways, so we're here for risk mitigation and events, why knowing is better than guessing. And I'm going to start out with what's important to us, which is keeping track at our school. Why is someone there? Who are they, and where are they? The question is, why do we need to care who's on our premises? And for us, security and safety, and I'm sure all of you, is number one. As a matter of fact, when I talk to the faculty in the beginning of the school year, I ask them what's most important, and I get answers such as grading papers and doing a great job in my class. And someone gets the right answer because they've been with our school for a while, and the answer is actually no, safety is number one, because without safety we can't have education, which is what we're all about. We care about everyone's safety and their security, and also, off to the side, we are liable for that at the same time. Who's visiting us? It's a big job keeping track of everyone who's on our premises. We've got students, we've got faculty, visitors. We do a lot of renting, which we'll talk about a little bit more. We're open on school days, weekends, after hours. It just goes on, and it's a big job keeping track of who's on the campus and where they're at, which is the next point. Primarily for if there's an emergency, where should they be, and where can you find them? So for us, there are two groups. I'll talk a little bit more, a lot more actually, about the external, the internal and the external. And for external, we've got the vetting approval process, the contract, insurance, deposit, and payment. Our internal groups for our school, we divide into these four groupings: sports, clubs, departments, and what I call groups, such as our Board of Governors, facilities. And by the way, what I'd like all of you to take away is to think about your own campus, your own school. You know, are you a 5-acre or a 15-acre campus? Do you have 1 building, 10 buildings, 30 buildings? What we have is going to be different than yours, so put it into context for what you stand, what you have. So these are our internal groups. The more challenging are the external groups. These are our rentals, outside groups that I divide into civic groups, athletics, and government. And for the most part, actually 100%, all of our government groups that come to us, we do not charge at all for rent, but we definitely charge for the civic groups and the athletics. We have a lot of athletics, basketball, baseball. Swimming is our largest actually revenue bearer for us, outside revenue. And then we have outside fundraising groups, religious organizations that use our premises, etc. The first part for us is the application process, and we need to get some basic information so that we can guide everything that's going to happen. For us, we have one person vet it, which actually is me, and while I don't like to call myself a control freak, I must in this area do so, because I think it's important to have control over what's happening and who's going to be utilizing your premises, unless you've got a really, really large group in which you have to have a large team. So the question is for us, and everyone actually, are they a legitimate corporation? Are the dates and locations available? And also, will they pay the rates that you're charging for renting? One thing that's important for us on the dates and locations is that we make sure that our own school groups are not using the premises, and sometimes I've got to double check with them just to make sure, because the most embarrassing thing is that I book someone on a calendar that looks free for a rental, and then I come back to them and I find out that our school group actually needs it and I've got to bump them. I urge you to take a look at what the property tax rules are in your own states. For California, and especially in Los Angeles County, for renting, we have to have a nonprofit 501c only organization. If we do not, that area will become taxable, property taxable, and it can be really, really expensive. Now, on one hand, we do have one group, and that's our swimming group. That is a for-profit, but for the amount of money that we bring in, it's worth it to have them rent from us and to have the pool charged for property taxes. Have a contract. There is a contract, I think, that they're being made available if you'd like to take a look at ours, but make sure that it's legally vetted for your organization. You can take a look at what's being sent out and you can get some ideas, but it's got to be for your organization, how you're unique, and that your legal counsel has taken a look at it. And the second thing is that it's signed by an appropriate person. That might be you, but make sure that the board has said, or governors or whatever group governs your school or university has said that you are the appropriate person. The other day I had someone, a coach, who wanted to rent from me, and I wanted to make sure she's from a university, local university, and I needed to get an okay from someone in their administrative area that she was legally bound to sign contracts. And the most fun thing about renting, at least for our institutions, is the money. There are two portions that I'm talking about here: the deposit, which not just goes towards the fees or paying the fees, but also towards damages that may incur, and also the fees that you're charging the organization for renting. And that should all be in the contract. Crucial is having insurance. I can't say how much enough it's important. Not only just a certificate of insurance, but having the additional insured endorsement on there. It's got to be an accurate document, so if it's got the wrong spelling of your institution or the wrong address, it's okay to tell them that you've got to have it reissued. Seek the guidance of your insurance broker. Involve them in the process. Also, one of the attachments is what our broker has put together for us to use for this purpose. Again, you're welcome to use it as a starter, but please involve your broker, have them make sure that it's appropriate for your organization. Make sure you've got to have, not make sure, you've got to have the certificate of insurance in advance of the event, and then make sure that you're renewing it if you've got return groups or organizations. Linda?
Thank you, David. So I'm just the same way for our school district is who is in your buildings, where and why. First and foremost, again, for us, it's security. How can we lock and unlock the buildings if we don't know who's coming or going? Is it a group with insurance that has already gone through the permit process, done the paperwork, turned in the insurance and the AIE? And what if there's a fire in your building? We wouldn't even know where to start looking or where to send somebody for help if you guys are stuck in there, if we don't know you're even in the building. Also, for billing purposes, we can't invoice again without knowing if you're in the building and what you're doing in there and how to bill you. So that's important to know with all the information again of, we have 4 different groups for our school district. We have the nonprofit and the for-profit group, and we have the adults and student rate. So we need to know who's coming in and out so we can bill accordingly and make sure we can staff the events so the building's unlocked. You have HVAC, or in some places you may want the AC. Who knows if you need heat? But, if you don't know people are coming in, and then double booking. We do have a lot of issues with double booking, with schools not putting their events in and me putting community use in. So that's one thing that we all have to work together on, making sure that that doesn't happen. How do we track everything? Internally for our school districts, every office manager has access to FS Direct. They're supposed to put in all of their school events in there. School events do take priority unless they don't tell me until the day of. And I wish I could say that never happens, but it does happen. So then at that point we need to try to work together and figure out how we can make both groups happen or what. All school activities need to be in the calendar for after school, nights, and weekends. So that's usually when community use can come in if the school is not in session. And so if it's on the calendar, the school is set, and I will make sure that the community is not there stepping on their toes. For our external requesters and community users, they can submit as an OEC user, which is really nice because it's electronic signature and everything all at once. I don't have to send out permits. I get all the information that I need with the addresses, phone numbers, and organization. But some people don't request through the computer, so they can send me an email, and that's when I need to do the permit, scan it, send it to them. But again, it's the contract that David was saying that we also need to make sure that we have signed, all of our I's dotted and T's crossed, to make sure that they understand and have insurance and everything is covered before we allow them into our buildings. If they don't have something, then they will show up and they will not be allowed to use our buildings just for our district liability.
So earlier on, I talked about keeping track in our school and why do we care who's on our campus, who's visiting us, where are they going to be on our campus. And I wanted to use those in a real-life situation that we had this last summer. We had a summer camp. They were a rental, and they were letting out. It was the afternoon hours, and as you see, the parents were lined up. We only had 3 administrators on campus, so it's one of those situations where it's quote-unquote not ideal. We just had a few of us. Security noticed a suspicious package and activity across the street. And then the Los Angeles Police Department bomb squad was called. They cleared the whole area. There was lockdown. And what that meant, amongst other things, was we had all these little kids there. We had to create food and activities to keep the kids occupied in the back. We had to evacuate the parents waiting in pickup line, which was not an easy ordeal at all, with all these cars just sitting in line. And we had to really concentrate on notification and communications to different people, including the organization, their camp and their people, as well as our own administration as to what was happening, giving them a play-by-play as much as we could. So the concerns are what they always are. Who was on campus? Who was going to do what? What safety procedures needed to be done? Where was everyone? Where were the renters and their key people? Where were the school employees, the administrators, security officers? One thing that we do use, by the way, is many of you probably also have walkie-talkie radios. We make sure that our renters also have these radios so that if they need to get a hold of someone quickly, they've got quick access and they've got their own channel that we can reach them if necessary. Bottom line, as always, is safety first. So I like to say that security starts before the guests are let in. We have controlled access way at the street level for us, and then there are sign-in sheets as to who's on campus. Sometimes if it's a larger group, we'll have an event list of the attendees that we can use that instead of having them sign in. Also, some groups, we suggest having attendee wristbands. Someone holds up the wristband, which they receive right outside our door, and people don't know the color ahead of time or what it's going to be like. And then that makes it much easier for us to let them in and out. And the other item is identity badges. We have them through the School Gate Guardian is what we use. There's Raptor is another company. We have people giving their driver's license to us. We run it through a database that kicks out any sexual predators and also puts the badge together. We hand it to them, and they need to wear it while they're on the premises. And when they leave, we collect it from them. Actually, we don't have them take it with them.
So safety for your events. If we have an alarm going off, not everybody knows what to do. That's why we always provide a site supervisor or administrator or custodian that knows the building, knows the evacuation routes and what we need to do to help assure that we can get people out of our building and off site as needed. We also will look, if we have a fire in the building, we need to know where people were, and if there were no rentals in the building, then we know that we're not looking. We also have a sign-in sheet at our front doors, so we can see if there's any teachers that have been in the building. We are kind of hard on our teachers because if they don't sign out and we find out the next day that they're still checked in, we will notify them because that is a huge safety. And we don't do it for our benefit. We do it for theirs in case we need to find them. Back to the insurance, just as David said earlier, we are also require commercial liability insurance and the additional insured endorsement that covers both the building and all the vehicles on the parking lot, whether it's in the area that they are in or in the building. They are responsible. If we don't get insurance, that's the first thing that we do is we will not let them in. There's no exceptions. You never know when someone's going to slip on something, fall, or just, who knows, something fall off the wall. That's huge, huge to protect the district. And so that's one thing in our district that we can't even, even if we get an email from the insurance company, unless we actually have the document, we will not allow them to be on our site. The top 3 rules for all the events is, again, make sure we have the permit signed. We get the insurance to cover the district with the additional insured endorsement. And we just make sure that we have all of that and a staff member scheduled, because taking the risk of not having something is not worth it.
So I've listed 3 additional takeaways, similar also. One is make sure that your contract and insurance are completed in advance of the event. It's a must. Also, as Linda was sharing with regards to the insurance, no insurance, no contract, no show, no event. And likewise, make sure that the contract is vetted by your school's attorney. On revenue, don't shortchange your school. Charge what it's worth to your school. Keep in mind all expenses, including maintenance and security and utilities. And my last little piece on revenue is that it's okay to say no. If it's too much of a hassle, if it's not worth it, if there's something about the group that just gets you the wrong way, or if you're not sure about the timing, it's okay to say no to the availability of a rental. And the last item on my 3 takeaways is staffing. Make sure that you've got the proper levels to support these guests and renters on your property, be it an event or a rental. Don't cheat your school by cutting back on having no one or just a few people. Make sure that they're there to represent the school in its best interest, and also that they're charged for it. All right, so you got all these events. I know we're really, really busy 358 days a year with school events and with rentals. So how do you keep track of the rooms and the areas that are being used and when they're being used, the resources that are needed to support the event or rental, what setups are needed, when are they needed, who is doing them, and also got to make sure that there are no conflicts with regards to someone else possibly wanting to use the premises. So how do you keep track of all these? And the business end. Is the insurance certificate in? Is it valid? Is a contract signed? Is an invoice out? Is money in as it should be? Contacts. Have you talked to the people before and after the event, the day of the event? Who are they? Do you have multiple numbers and names? So bottom line, you've got to use, I believe, great event software. We've used for many years now FS Direct, which is by Dude Solutions. It allows us to detail the buildings, the areas, the rooms, and the startup and setup times. Most important thing here is that it allows us to prevent conflicts in space use and time. And when we have conflicts, that really, well, we don't have conflicts. We've learned the hard way, and we take care of it before they become a conflict. The other really great item that Dude Solution provides are KPIs, key performance indicators, that are not only internal to our school but also with other schools as to how we're doing as far as rental information and event information in using the software. It allows us to keep track of the business end, including the invoicing, insurance, and contacts. It includes setup requirements that go to the proper recipients via email. You can decide who those recipients are. I've listed a few of them here: IT, maintenance, security, and actually to the right of that in that box are some setup requirements for whatever, I think it was a board meeting actually, that went to our maintenance crew, telling them how many seats, what type of setup, etc. And the neat thing also about the software that we use is it's highly individualized to your organization, and love it that it's easy to use.
Okay. Thank you, David and Linda. We are going to wait a minute here to get some Q&A questions in the pipe, and while we're doing that, we are going to ask a poll question about whether or not you would like more information on the Dude Solutions Event Suite, so you can go ahead and answer that. And then we will get into Q&A. So we'll give that a minute to give everyone a chance to answer. All right, I think we will go ahead on. So the first question I see is to David, asking how you chose to go with FS Direct.
It's been a while, so I don't remember all the details, except that there were two other vendors that we took a look at, and I looked at what each of them had to offer, and I also looked at pricing. And when I looked at what Dude Solutions had to offer and the combination with the pricing, it was a slam dunk as far as I was concerned. I made sure there were a couple other people that felt similar to myself. The other item is that Dude Solutions has other types of software that can connect to it, and that was a positive item also that I saw for the future that we could. Dude Solutions was our first, FS Direct was our first software with Dude Solutions, but now we have others in the maintenance area that connect nicely, and it makes a really nice package.
Okay. Next question: when looking for a CMMS for event management, what are the most important factors to consider? Well, I guess that's to either of you.
I'm sorry, say that question again.
I'm sorry. When looking for a CMMS for event management, what are the most important factors to consider?
You want to make sure that it can be personalized to your institution. You want to make sure that it covers some of the points, and I'm happy to go over those in more detail with anyone who'd like to get in contact with me. But that you need to think about the different areas. You think about the business ends. The business ends are, is it showing you about the contract, about the insurance? Is it showing you about how you're charging, your invoicing? Is it showing about the event setup? Is it helping those people out who want to set up the event? What they need to do and what kind of timely basis? Is it keeping people informed? Is there a calendar that other people can have access to? There's just a lot involved with any event type of software package, and happy to go over that in details. Or I do know that, and what I would recommend is that you ask other companies to show you their products online. It doesn't cost you anything except for your time and your due diligence, and I just highly recommend that.
Okay. We've got someone asking for more information about property taxes for non-501c3 entities.
So the first thing is contact your school's attorney, more specifically tax law, tax attorney, who can tell you what the limitations are or are not with regards to property taxes and renting to a non-501c3 organization. If they say that you may lose your exemption by renting to a non-501c3, then you've got a decision to make as to what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. And again, I'm happy to offline share a lot more experience. If they say there's no problem at all, you're not going to lose your property tax exemption by renting to a for-profit rather than a nonprofit, you've got nothing to worry about it. Go for it. Go for the gusto.
And that's what, for us in the school district, is we have a for-profit rate that we do rent to, but the nonprofit gets priority over a for-profit group.
Next question, what is the typical amount of insurance schools require from renters? For example, $1 million general liability and $3 million general aggregate.
So my first answer to that is kind of like talk to your attorney, but in this case, talk to your insurance broker. That's my number one answer. My number two answer is I will give you some information. For us, because we have a pool, anyone who uses the pool has to have, for us at this time, a $5 million minimum. And for other organizations, a $1 million minimum.
Linda, anything to add?
Something similar?
Well, ours is just the $1 million liability and then additional insured endorsement to cover the rest is what we require for our district.
Okay. Should an organization like an after-prom committee be required to provide liability insurance and or sign a hold harmless agreement? Or hold harmless, excuse me.
Yes, for us, we make everybody sign a permit and that, and they should have their own insurance. So if it's run by the booster clubs, a lot of them usually pick up the after grad party and stuff. It's under the booster insurance. We have to have it. There's no exceptions for anybody not having insurance to cover the district.
Right. Okay. Do you train each of your office managers to approve school dude events taking place in their building or area?
So for our district, we do. It comes to me, and I look over it to make sure it's a legit request, and then I push it off to the office managers who will check their calendar to make sure that we didn't miss anything or nothing should have been on School Dude that wasn't on FS Direct. And then once they approve it, it comes back to me for final activation, and that's when I will send out a permit or send out the invoice of final approval.
Okay.
And same thing here.
All right.
And School Dude really helps us out. Dude Solutions really helps us out with the training.
Okay. Linda, for you specifically, what event management system do you use and how has it helped you?
So I just use FS Direct just to do the calendar for our community use. Our district as a whole does use Maintenance Direct also, which ties together for our custodians to be able to push through work orders for HVAC. So it's connected. We have the same pool of people that have access to it. But we have another coworker of mine that is the comptroller for Maintenance Direct, so I only use FS in the calendar for scheduling the after-hours events.
Okay. This person had a number of questions. I'm going to take them one at a time. How many buildings do you schedule for your district?
I have 32 sites, buildings, and then all the fields in Edmonds School District.
Okay. David, do you?
I hate to say this, we're small potatoes. We only have 2 buildings, but the one thing I can say is
nice.
More than one.
2 versus more than one, right? But the one thing that I can say in the product that I've looked at is that it's very, very user friendly. I mean, you can have it's set up so that you can have multiple schools, and within multiple schools, you can have multiple buildings within those schools. Within a district, and Linda, that's just what I've seen. Linda can share much more from actual experience on that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very user friendly. We have all of our schools in there. People can see other schools, so if it's a group that wants to go and use like a middle school and elementary school that wants to use the high school, they can put in a request for the high school. They have access to that. We also use our main building. ESC, and people have access to requesting the boardrooms and stuff, so it is very user-friendly for lots of different people using the same buildings. Same thing with the fields. We don't have the fields are separate. It's like considered a separate building. The office managers don't have to approve that, but we have it all in one system, all at one place. Very easy to use.
Okay. Next part of that question: how many? Do you use the community use portal?
Yes, I love it. We just recently added it. We're just a little over a year, and I have over 200 people using that. Again, it's really nice because they have to enter all of their information before they can even submit it. So there's no blanks that get left out. They still have to send me their insurance and the 501c3 separate. But I can approve them. It comes to me for approval, so I have to look and make sure I have everything before I give them access to the community use portal to enter their request. But it's taken a lot off of my plate for them to enter their request directly into the system. And then I have an electronic signature, so I don't have to follow up with, please sign this and scan it back to me. It's already done with an electronic signature on the portal.
Okay. And then lastly, how many people in your district assist with reviewing schedules, invoicing, applying payments, confirming insurance, and activating schedules?
So for me, there's 2 of us in the district that do it all.
Okay. And then, we had one more come in. For your internal requests, do you require 2-week in advance submissions? And how do you handle last-minute event requests?
So for us, we have a 12-day turnaround period. Anything within that, if it's a current group that's already rented from us, we have all their information on file. Then sometimes if it's available, I can push it through. If it's a new organization that has not rented from us before, then we pretty much tell them we're sorry, we can't, because we're not going to rush and not get all the information that we need and have something happen that, we didn't have what we needed or a permit signed or insurance done correctly. We're not going to rush it and, possibly have an issue that will cost our district. So we'll just have to tell them we can't look at their request this time, that we need more time for next time.
Okay.
And similar to Linda, if we've got someone who's already rented from us, it's a much easier process. Usually those requests from previous renters are very easy to handle. It's usually people who have not rented from us and want it now. And usually if they want it now, then the whole thing to begin with is not organized. And usually I don't want to work with disorganization. starting out. I want to start on a positive note. So it's okay to say no. I won't say that we do say no, and we don't have a hard 2-week date as far as, or 1-week date as far as accepting applications, et cetera, for our school.
Okay. I think we will call it there. If you have a moment and you haven't already, please take a sec to complete the feedback form that appears on the bottom of your screen. Otherwise, we've run out of time, and I would like to thank our speakers, Dave and Linda, and our sponsor, DoToLedo. As a reminder, if you are registered as a group, please have the names and emails of all in attendance on the exit survey. And also a reminder that an archive of this webinar will be posted on asumag.com within sometime, usually about a week out, for you to review. Thank you again on behalf of American School University, and have a productive remainder of the day.